Part 2 to Scargiver is now out on Netflix, but is it any better than the first? Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema, where we focus on the film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema, and let me know down in the comments below what you think of Rebel Moon Part 2. Hey, do you like it? Do you not like it? Or is it any better than the first or worse? And let me know all that down in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already to join in this film culture community where we talk about films each and every day by going right into synopsis. Following right after the events of Rebel Moon the Child, we get the perceived death of the Emperor from the rebels, and when they figure out the truth and they have to gather up their forces and build up their defenses, they prepare for a war that could be the fight of their lives. And going right into positive, overall, I love the general structure to this story, what it has to offer, and as a sci-fi fan, there's a familiarity with the sci-fi and Star Wars tropes that are played in with this, and just a general atmosphere is compelling enough. I do enjoy the filmmaking to what Zack Snyder brings to this film, and just the general ideas of the sci-fi franchise building up his own unique ideas. The characters feel original enough, and there's not too much aliens or aliens at all that really intrude, that makes it feel too familiar, feels like it's trying to copy something else from another sci-fi franchise. And so I do generally enjoy the atmosphere, the vibe that you're getting from all of these characters. There's a general build-up of these characters. You're learning more that we didn't get from the first one. And as a retrospect, I did enjoy the first one a good bit. It's not the best, but as a whole, in going into this, it still played off in some ways that brought in some of the great action. The cinematography is pretty gorgeous for what you're bringing out of the ships, their designs, and just the general costume design is good and compelling enough. The acting is good for what they're given, and how you're pulling off all of these different ideas, all of these just different tropes that you're getting is good enough, and I'm not too bothered by the familiarity or what you're getting from something that takes away from the general action, and even the lightsaber type of effects. It still pulls in a good amount of ideas that still pulls off something that I can enjoy by the general gist of what I'm expecting for what Zack Snyder brings to his own original story. But going into some of the mixed elements, as I mentioned, from what I'm not bothered with, there's certain ideas and tropes that are pulled in left and right that you may be way too familiar with, and it doesn't pull in some great creative genius ideas to the story or to the characters, making them the overall unique. And if you weren't a fan of part 1, you may not be a fan of this one either, based on the ideas that it generally follows the same things. It's taking some characters that you're still familiar with, the gestures that the film is tackling, and while it has some great battles, overall it feels generally generic in one sense of the means that you're going after. But going right into the negatives, ultimately this film pales in comparison to what we could be getting for something big and original that Zack Snyder seems to be getting. And unfortunately, part of this could be studio interference. We won't know until we get a director's cut, if we do get that. But unfortunately, there's just so much that feels left out. There's a couple moments where I notice where they go into a ship at the end of a battle and you don't get that resolution or the scene that leads them to going into the ship. And for the particular scene in particular, it has an interruption that shouldn't work in that way. You don't see the right transition. And so there are scenes that look visibly left out when it should be kept in, based on the logic of consistency, based on how you're playing with these characters, that just generally don't feel like they're giving enough meat to build up the storyline that you're getting. While part 1 left you with a lot of things empty-handed, and like the characters not established as a whole, this doesn't offer too much more to the characters that I felt they were given. And when they do establish more of their backstories, it's a sit down show and tell type of idea that while it does show flashbacks, it still feels like a tell more than a show of what you're getting from them, because it's an interruption from the consistent story and doesn't do a flashback in the right way that feels fully fleshed out in a way that I would expect this film to flow out as. And so just generally the characters still feel generally generic, and you're not getting enough out of them to really fully care as a whole, outside of them being just plain old soldiers that you're getting with the rest of the citizens of the town. And as good as the atmosphere feels, there's still a general plain vibe to the planet we're living on, the city and culture that we're placed in, that ultimately, while it feels good because I'm a sci-fi fan, I enjoy the battle and all it brings, it still feels plain and non-adventurous for how well that they're delivering on the momentum to this story, lowering the stakes in some sense. And while there's a bit of bigger battle, it still feels like a same general final battle that we got within the first film that doesn't build up too much more, that it really feels like you got the cost of all of the lives of all of these people that are the citizens because of how well they're able to build up. There's not a build up of the training too effectively, and it ultimately pulls a lot of the punches that you're getting within the first film and some other sci-fi films that ultimately doesn't have the character growth or the story building that builds upon their training, the willingness to fight, and how you communicate with all of the different people that they have on board. And so that's just my general review on Rebel Moon Part 2 The Scargiver. While I do enjoy it as a whole, it ultimately feels empty-ended and bland, giving it a score of 6 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of Rebel Moon Part 2 The Scargiver. How you think of it. Is it on the worse end and lesser than Part 1? Or is it on the same part and you just don't like either of them? Let me know all that. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you enjoy it. If you want to join in the film culture community where we talk about films each and every day. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.